So as mentioned by Prof. Namo, that I've covered the challenges and the approach, as well as I will be touch on why the key performance indicators are important at this process. And also I will use projects with Singapore government and a project with a private developer in Indonesia to illustrate the approach. I hope you don't find it a bit dry because today's focus is really on the approach. So what are the challenges? I think more often we will ask a lot of questions why we need to integrating sustainability into our design, especially in the probably a few, probably decades ago, you will be even more questions on this. Now slowly, because we see the climate change, the damage to the environment and all that, people are tending to have more focus and then realize how important is the sustainability is. To our discipline, we are actually also using a lot of the sustainability principles into our design and all that. But I think the real when handling this sustainability integration, there will be a few key challenges that I felt during my consulting work. First is a lot of the time, because of the limited knowledge of the sustainability aspects, people tend to take a silo approach, which may focusing on certain aspects of sustainability. For example, maybe only energy beyond the others. But if you want to achieve the real sustainability, a holistic and an integrated approach should be taken, which actually means that you need to not only integrating various urban systems, but also you need to pay attention to the interactions among those urban systems. And then the second challenge, I think that's too obvious to say, that how you actually align the sustainability goals with the business goals. And of course, the goals will be different between the public sector and the private sector, because public sector is meant for the public goods. So they are more intent to using public policies to incentivize the goods, the sustainability for the long term growth for the whole city. And then the approach is taken, and also the public funding, which means that building up the infrastructure necessary, and then also applying different policies that could be applied to individual development itself. But for the private developer themselves, they will be the one that really come up with the money and invest in the sustainability strategies and to get things built. So that the end goal is a bit different for public and private, but justifying the cost is one of the key challenge or the key question that always been asked. So which means that how you justify the cost is normally you need to identify the value and the benefits, and then most importantly to quantify them, and then in order to say, okay, you should pay for that. And then the other part is that because of limited funding, normally we will face. So it's important to having a road mapping to see what you need to focus on at the short term. So better to use the funding to realize the outcome, the goals that you envision. So the third one is actually you have, which means that you really find a service provider to using a appropriate business model which suits yourself as well as the service provider, and also who will be the partners that you can work on to make it real. So that's the key challenges. So how actually we to handle this challenges, as I mentioned earlier, we need a holistic approach. So the holistic approach means that beyond the master plan, the urban farm, you will also need to consider transportation, water, energy, waste, ecology, social, all the different urban systems, and then of course the interaction. And then also you will need to integrate at different level, which means you start from the planning, design level. At the master planning, you need to choose the most sustainable master plan urban form, and the infrastructure level, which means the government normally will pay to build. And the third level is the parcel level, which normally the developers will bear the cost of that. And of course, I mentioned cost benefits of those strategies and the business model and partners. It seems like it's a lot of the elements that you will need to consider. So actually, based on the earlier projects that I worked on in AECOM, we actually having some like really cool tools or models to handle all those different elements together. I will share it later. So along the whole process, actually, I just want to highlight the KPI, the key performance indicator. So why this one is so important? Because this is a key to quantify the benefits. So it's actually throughout the planning, design, implementation stage, you will be based on this key performance indicator framework that you set up earlier. Because at the planning stage, and you will be able to evaluate various master plan options to see which is the most sustainable ones. And also during the implementation stage, you will be able to monitor the progress of achieving your goals that you set up earlier for each of the KPIs. And then the third is that you actually can continue tracking the performance during the operation, which in turn will provide the feedbacks or insights for the future redevelopment. And the fourth aspect is also will be able to help your development to benchmark the overall sustainability achievement of projects to international standards. So this is really something critical that for all the sustainable development, you will have a KPI framework in place to guide through the whole development operation phases. So now I will go to the projects, the public sector project in Singapore. So you might familiar with this photo, and the whole project is if you see the Marina Bay Sands, so all the land behind this Marina Bay Sands will be the other reclaimed areas that this is a project we worked on. So there are two major objectives. One is to develop a customized sustainable development framework to measure, evaluate, and monitor the sustainability frame of performance. And the second is really to identify the gaps and the areas for improvement and develop a integrated sustainable design and engineering solutions to be implemented. So the whole project size is about 500 hectares. Yeah. So what the project team does is that we using a holistic approach, and then it's cut across 3 different stages. So as normal planning project, design project, you will basically do the baseline assessment, which is the stage A. But what is different from your normal projects is that during the first stage, one critical step is to establish the KPIs that you want to measure, and then it's also that for each of the KPIs you will use it to assess your current master plan if you have one. And after that, actually, after you evaluate your plan and you look into the international benchmarking of for the other cities, the best practice, what they've done, and then you will be setting aspirational targets, which means that the targets that you want to achieve for your development. And then so carry out this KPI for the framework itself, and then goes to stage B. This is where we actually propose like different master plan options and using the KPI then to measure these options and then choose a preferred plan. And then based on this preferred plan, and then you will look at the infrastructure level, parcel level kind of strategies, and then carry out the cost benefits and the whole system kind of for optimization, which are going to go a little bit deeper later on. And then at the stage C, we go into how you actually integrate those into the design itself. So it's a holistic approach and a complex process to see. So this whole project is actually the backbone of this whole approach is the sustainable systems integration model, which is, AECOM priority. And this one is, so you can see actually this is a model that actually integrating master plan with all the different urban systems. And through a integration and optimization processing, and then you will be able to get a whole sustainability framework, the programs for all the different urban systems. So the whole same model itself is actually covers 3 stages. The first stage is master plan evaluation. As I mentioned earlier, is the end outcome that for the stage 1 will be the preferred master plan or the most sustainable master plan. And then the stage 2 will be infrastructure, parcel level strategies, type of gaming suggestion, cost benefits analysis. And the stage 3 is to put all the different strategies from different urban systems together and to through the gaming process, and then you will be able to get a final recommended strategies. So I just go a little bit detail on what we mean by master plan evaluation. So for this particular projects, the master planning evaluation KPIs, we actually focusing on the 5 areas like garden city experience, waterfront, walkable, bikeable community, transit oriented, and convenient living. So actually, but under each of the big cluster, we have a set of KPIs. And then if you see this page, you will be able to see that there are the different KPIs we're setting. So some are maybe quite familiar to you. For example, the percentage of population within walking distance to a park or open space. And then, of course, the per service population park and open space area. So those are familiar ones. And then there will be other ones that you may not find it familiar. Is not the normal master planning process. For example, the average prevailing wind speed at certain level. So that's really to measure the comfort of the urban space. And there are also other KPIs. So this set of KPIs actually this is the one that we chosen for this particular projects in Singapore. But for the other projects, so those KPIs, some of the KPIs will need to be customized to suit the unique condition of each of the projects. And for the quantification of KPI, some are actually through the simple calculation, like the parks open space per service population is the calculation. But some are actually based on GIS analysis, and some are based on the other modeling tools. So just give you 2 quick examples. One is this basically is using a GIS to do the analysis using the network analysis, and then you will be able to quantify the percentage of service population within walking distance. And so the other one is the CFD modeling, which you will be able to generate the wind speed. So this one particularly at the 2 meter above ground, which is more at the human level, and what are the average wind speed. So after you actually having all the actual quantified number of different KPIs, and then you put all the KPIs performance together, and then you will be able to see which plan actually carries the highest score, and then will be the the most sustainable master plan per se. And then on this model, you actually could play with the weightage on which aspect or which cluster you actually weight more than the other, and then you can have probably have different results. So and at the end of this process, you will be able to identify the preferred master plan. So this is the plan that eventually is come out. So it's from the URA 2013 master plan exhibition. So this one, if you see that this is the site that I talked about, and so if you look at the details of the key ideas, one actually is the use development. And then at this area, the CBD, the new CBD car, actually most of the parcels are white side, which means that it's a mix of different type of usage. So this one actually how it's linked to the sustainability is essentially is reduce the travel needed to getting your daily needs or to work and all that. And so it's translate to the carbon reductions in the end. And also, if there is another aspect, is like really creating another like opportunity for the waterfront CBD, because currently Singapore CBD is actually inside, but by developing the whole site, there is opportunities to bring it out. But again, this one is more from the transforming the urban the urban footprint perspective, rather than the pure sustainability aspects. And then the other one is the key idea is about creating the car-free public spaces. So at the middle part of this whole development, we are trying to create the districts without car. So this is again back to the fundamental to reduce the reliance on the cars, and then to create a vibrant street life. And then as one of the benefits will be the carbon reduction. So all those actually being quantified at the back end. And the other, the idea for is using the blue assets. We know that Singapore is a water scarce city, and the Marina Bay areas right now is become the reservoir by introducing the dam here. And then by developing the whole districts here, and there's an opportunity actually having another future reservoir. So this green network actually planned within the districts is really connecting the two reservoirs together, and it's through the underground or through the open channel on the ground. So later on, actually this open canal is really a corridor that serves multiple functions. And also at the waterfront, we could keep it open. And there is, if you notice earlier on, there is a KPIs on the public accessible waterfront, which means we're really promoting the waterfront to be public accessible. And the eco corridor. So this is the one that, as I mentioned earlier on, actually this whole land is reclaimed, and it's really expensive to reclaim the land. And then Garden by the Bay is a place that, I mean, because of the significance of the place and the park early on, there's leave a big land for the park itself. Now, how actually, why actually you leave another green corridor, which about 80 meters of wide, at this very expensively claimed land? So it serves a purpose. Basically, there are a few key rationale behind it. One, based on the wind modeling we have earlier on, and this corridor actually will be able to bring the wind from outside to actually cool down the whole districts. And then the second is, as I mentioned earlier, it will be part of the open canals that connecting the two reservoirs. And then the third is the eco corridor, because it's you all know about ABC, right? So the ABC is really this eco corridor becomes a place that people can use it as a park, have all the recreation for the recreation purpose, and it also provide a habitat for different type of animals or plantations. So this corridor is really multifunction, and that's why the benefits is big enough to help make the decision of when actually this is the corridor that is essential to our new CBD. Okay, so after this master plan, so earlier on we talked about, okay, we based on all the evaluations, we choose the preferred master plan, which is the most sustainable master plan, which to our assumption that you only need to change your plan, and so there's no additional cost because it's just like by design. And then the next layer actually is on top of the master plan. So based on that plan, we actually looked into the infrastructure and the parcel level modeling. So how we did that is basically for 5 key steps. First, for each of the system, like either energy, water, or waste, or the others, we actually establish a measure library. And then for the library, for each of the measure, we actually set up an intensity. And for each of the measure, we also calculate a cost, which formulate the cost library. And because there are so many measures proposed, so we will not be able to like gaming, choosing like different measures or randomly, because some are actually associated as well. So based on each discipline's rationale behind it, we actually formulate the different package for the measures based on the different themes, and the cost, and carry out the cost benefits of each package. And we'll be able to look through all the packages to be able to recommend which package is the best for each individual system. So this is what's been done in the stage 2. I just use water as an example to just get a little bit more clarity. So for this water, just for example, the district green water systems. So that's a measure that actually use a centralized grey water reuse system. And then on the option 1, 2, 3 is more about the percentage area that's going to use these systems. And so similarly to other measures, like to collect or reuse rooftop rainwater from percentage roof area, and there is also different intensity. And for each different intensity, the cost will be normally see increasing in terms of cost, but the benefits itself is also like increasing. And then, so that's just the measures. And for the, as I mentioned, so we need to, based on the experience of putting different strategies into package. Just for example, the demand focus package, which means that you control from the demand side. And if you both pay attention to the demand, as well as you want to actually use the district green water system for the reuse water from the supply side, then that's a package 5. And then there's other package you using different type of supply as a replacement to the water supply. So that's a different package. And then for each of the package, we'll be able to quantify, as I mentioned, there is actually a cost tag to each of the measures. And then you'll be able to see what are the capital costs, OPEX, and also what are the benefits, like the water reduction or the water savings per additional 1,000 spent, etc. And what are the simple payback period, the years. And responding to each of them is also the benefits, which in this case is total municipal water demand reduction and stormwater quality improvement. So those are so it's very clear, straightforward that you will see the cost and what are the benefits. so this is so for this package, if you see, this is the recommended for these cases. And then is focusing on the demand control, which means the interior fixture is control what type of interior fixture that you need to use. And then the from the supply side is more to collect and reduce the gray water. And for the storm water is implement these ABC elements. So to a certain the option 2 level of intensity. And then you see what are the reduction to water and then all the others, and what are the costs and savings potentially. So this is the whole the same process carried out for all the different systems. And then now it goes to the stage 3, which actually putting all the different systems together. So when we do this, we actually need a primary KPI to be identified. So this KPI will be different from the master planning level KPI, because that's one is more measure the spatial elements. But this one is really goes to the carbon emission, the total energy use reduction, and the passenger car for the transportation is the trips, the travels reduced, and the water, the ecology, and the waste, or even the UHI and all that. So that's the primary KPIs that we're going to use to measure the performance of the strategies at the infrastructure level and the parcel level. So after you putting all the different packages from different systems together, you will be able to choose different package from different systems. And again, the interlink between different systems is built into this model. And you'll be able to see what are the performance of the primary KPIs and what are the CapEx and the OpEx. So the CapEx, OpEx is also separated into the government CapEx and the private CapEx, which is going to be borne by the private developer. So that's the so you can actually choose as many as possible the type of combinations as you like, but to serve the purpose of identifying a recommended set of strategies, actually we normally take a scenario basis approach. So just for this case, the first scenario is the aspirational optimal, which actually identify, as I mentioned earlier, before we carry out all these studies based on the international benchmark and then all that studies, actually the client will identify targets, aspirational targets that they want to achieve through this whole process. And then the program 1 is that in the case that we achieve all the aspirational targets, what will be the result? What are the benefits? What's the cost? And then the program, the scenario 2, is the payback efficient, which means that you will be having the payback more quickly, the most quickly one. And then this program 3 is sustainability maximum, which means that we achieve the highest possible sustainability goals. So for some case, it's actually more than the aspirational goals that set up earlier. Of course, this one will cost much more money than the other programs. And then the final program is actually a balanced program, which actually choosing between the achieving goal, but we're also looking into what are the cost aspects of implications. So after the whole process, you'll be able to see actually to have this set of recommended programs to be implemented, what will be your payback period. And you also will be able to see where actually the incremental capital cost come from. So it's whether from energy, from landscape, or from transport, or from others. So you can see how much actually each individual systems will need to pay for. And you also will be able to tracking the carbons. So which means that the contribution from different urban systems to the total carbon reductions. And so that's the whole. So at end of the stage 3, you already have a set of recommended strategies at infrastructure and parcel level. So how you actually using the design, the planning design to integrate. So those are just like a few quick examples. So for the public transportation, there are set of strategies and park open space, roadside and essential. So just give a few quick examples. So at this, this is the case about the share bike. But nowadays in Singapore, there are many share bikes that is being implemented, and then it's ongoing right now. But at the point of the projects, there's no share bike in Singapore yet. So at that point of time, the team actually proposed a shared, the fixed station type of share bike, and what how many bike station that you required, and then how many bike space that you require at each station, and how the design of the bike station in relationship to the cycling paths, to the pedestrian paths, and all that is being designed. But it may seem simple at this diagram, but the back end of the calculation is the measure itself, is how actually by adopting this share bike station, how much carbon reduction you will achieve, which is part of the modeling that I shared early on. And then the eco corridor, so that's I think you all know that Singapore, they use green plot ratio to measure the green space integration with urban development. So for this case, and we goes beyond to the parcel itself. We goes to that the eco corridor, see what are the green plot ratio we recommending it to achieve. So that will involve the intensity of the softscape, the palm and trees density, as well as the percentage of softscape. So those are all those numbers are all built or outcome of the modeling itself. But this design is really just to illustrate what it will look like if we talk about 70 number of hectare of trees, yeah, or the 50% softscape coverage. So it's really translating the strategies into a design. And similarly to the streets, roadside tree spacing. So actually all those backend calculations in the model, and then this is just saying what are the distance tree spacing that we're recommending as part of the overall program, and what are the green plot ratio even to the road space level. And then for the wetlands, the ABC strategies. So there's actually a number of how many hectare of the park's open space will be allocated to the retention systems and maybe quantify. And this is the plan to really illustrate where are the place that are going to be treated by the wetlands or by retention system, or which are the areas actually within the parcel, or which are at the public areas. And at the parcel level, so this is the strategies that the private developer will need to take a go. So basically, it's focusing on the 4 key areas. One is the building massing and the envelope. So which means that by capturing the wind, it will be able to like cool down the whole microclimate of the place. And by providing the vertical greenery, it will improve the thermal comfort at the walking level, all by using like lighter color materials. It will be able to reduce the urban heat island effect. And then there will be the landscape design aspects. So the percentage of softscape and the tree density, as I mentioned earlier, and also the rain garden. What are the percentage of the roof area or the ground level to be allocated for the rain garden, and the efficient irrigation devices. And the building engineering, the fixtures for water savings, and then the collection of rainwater, as well as grey water distribution, and the cars parking standard, bicycle parking, recycling food waste, and as well as the building energy performance guidelines. So it basically is a smart grid or the PV installation, etc. So those are the parcel level. So these strategies in the end, it will be packaged as part of the land sale requirement. Just use one parcel as illustration. So at the strategy level, it's actually for the basically for the function that is a mixed function, as I mentioned, and then you're integrating the cycling, and then trying to capture the wind, and then the urban ecology, how actually integrated into the design, and then vertical greenery and development edge. So those are some of the fundamental principles that you design the place. But again, as a illustrating of the strategies we proposed earlier on, it's actually, you can see that it's a lot more detail. It's not only saying, okay, you do vertical greenery, but it's more about from the master programming that we proposed modeling, costing, and all that. The outcome is actually a very specific kind of quantified requirement. For this case, it's recommending like 2.5% of building facade, and it should be below 30-meter height at the wet side of the building. And then for the downwash, you also need to quantify the ratio between the building in front and building at the back. And of course, the building materials and what actually is the SRR. And then similarly to the rain garden, the percentage of site area, and then the tree density, etc. So this is, the design is really a reflection and illustration of how it will look like if you implementing those strategies that you recommended. So actually, in the end of the projects, how actually is a lot of work and outcome, how actually you will be able to use what has been modeling, what has been designed to the future implementation. So this is a critical part for the guiding the whole process. So for each of the KPI, actually, as I mentioned, there are measures, and then on top of the measures, you need to prioritize those measures, which are the high, medium, or low priority in terms of implementation. And also you will need to see whether the measures is actually at the infrastructure level, or it is at parcel level, and who will be the government sector that leading the implementation of each strategy. So this is a very clear guiding framework that will be able to guide through the whole process. So actually, this is the projects in Singapore with the government sectors. So you can see that the focus is really onto the formulating the different strategies at infrastructure or parcel level, and it's actually a very holistic approach has been taken. So the next project is more on the private sector projects in Indonesia, which actually took a slightly different approach. So the objective of these projects in Indonesia is they already have a master plan in place, and what actually the client wants is to integrate the sustainable and the smart strategies within the overall master plan. And then on top of that, is also need to focus on the strategies that to be implemented in phase 1. So what the team has done is actually, of course, it's based on the baseline study, the context study, and all that. We're actually coming out with an overall framework, which identify what are the vision, what are the goals, and what are the strategies that to implement those goals. And as I mentioned earlier, for the goals, in order to measure or monitor the performance in the future, a set of the key performance indicators are also identified. And for the this is a bit different approach also in terms of the complexity level, because early on, if you see the government project in Singapore, there are so many measures in place, and then it's covered all different disciplines. And of course, for the private sector, it may not be taking all those measures into the consideration, but it's more like a lean process, which means that for the strategies, there are a set of solutions and initiatives being identified for each of the strategies. And of course, it will cover all the key focus areas that identified for these particular projects. It's ranging from planning to energy, transport, lifestyle, or governance, or healthcare, etc. So for this whole, this long list, we call long list initiative solutions, we actually need to go through a selection process. So as I mentioned, that the selection is to really help you to focus on what is the most appropriate for these projects. So the criteria of selection for this particular project, we actually took these 4 steps. One is the adoption level, which means the technology or the initiative behind this solution itself, whether it's widely adopted or a moderate adopted or early stage adoption. And then what are the focus area is because we identify those key focus areas. So we need to make sure that at least one solutions are available for each of the focus area. And then the third is really on the implementation skill, which means that for this particular projects, if the solutions that we listed earlier on only will be viable at the city level, then will not be on our list, because we are more on the either district level, estate level, or building level. And stage 4 is also related to the development types. So at the end of this selection process, that will be actually from 65, we actually zoomed into 16. So for these 16 initiatives, we go deeper to really looks into the concepts, what are the detailed concept and the benefits, and also the timeline of implication, the budget, the complexity, and then the business model, funding, and all that. And then we will be, based on the deep dive, we will be able to give scoring to each of the initiatives, which focusing on the financial viability and the depth of impacts to the estate operations or to the user experience, and also the timeline of impact, and the stakeholder and the infrastructure complexity. So those are the areas we assign a score. And through this scoring process, we will be able to identify the top ones for clients' consideration. And actually, this is all based on the research study and the team's done. But the very important process is to have the stakeholder engagement, to get the client's input into the initiatives, and then finally to identify the ones that to be considered to integrate with the phase 1 analysis. And so this phase 1, So for the phase 1 implementation, what is important is really to, as I mentioned earlier, to make a business case. And at this point, we will need to actually look into the high-level financial estimations of those solutions. And also we need to identify the potential business models and the partners. So we look into the concept detail for the top ones identified, and we goes down to the cost, the CapEx, OpEx, the revenue, and then the other tangible or intangible benefits. We identify what are the business model and the potential partners. So just for this just use district cooling in this case, for example. So we actually identifying two scenario, and based on like a different coverage of the district cooling plant. And so we'll be able to quantify what will be the cost and then the benefits for that. And we'll also identify what will be the business model. And if you see that for the business model, we normally will identify the key stakeholders, the players in the picture, and we look into the value flow, which means the benefits, how the benefits flows between different stakeholders. And we look into the money flow, which means that who will need to pay to who, and as well as the intangible benefits flow. So we also like scan the market and who will be the potential partners to provide these district cooling systems. So that's how we actually works into the road mapping and all the final recommended solution and initiatives. So in addition to this, so as I mentioned earlier, the key objective is also to integrate into the master plan on those strategies. So at the master planning level, we actually integrate the solutions and then to refine the master plan. And then at the phase one, we also actually goes into the detail on how actually these top initiatives going to be integrated into the design. Where are the lines? Where are the facilities should be located? And where are the main pipes need to go? And all that. So I think that's the end of my sharing. And at the end, I just want to emphasize that for the sustainability aspects, actually now is in a way is easier than before, as the importance being recognized more widely. But taking a holistic approach is really critical to our as key drivers to the built environment of the future. Is critical to actually taking this approach to promote the sustainability to the next step. Thank you.